just dancing around. And I'm going to imagine a hill. We did this the other day in a video, and I'm doing it again. Everyone's version of this would be different. There's millions of ways of doing this. You can play around as much as you like. It's very soothing and relaxing and will do your mind good. When you pick up a brush to paint, do you feel something shift in your brain? Do you become calmer, more connected, and yet more relaxed? Painting has been scientifically proved to help your brain remain younger longer. And when you paint like I show you how in my videos, the effect is even greater. So take a step with me today to protect your memory, mood, and well-being. Let's jump right in. So here we have a tiny little painting set, which is described as a mini travel set, and it's got 10 half pans and a brush inside it. Aquafine is by Drawell Maestro, and it's one of their student quality paints. It's one of the student quality paints. I rather like the tin. It looks like they've drawn these lines here with a pencil, actually, rather than done it with a brush. My Stettler Carat Aquarelle would do lines like that on there, I think. Anyway, that's quite a nice kind of effect. But moving on from the quality of the tin, we'll go inside and we will find, and this is quite good actually, because something I've often complained about with some of the other paints I've opened is you don't really know which ones are which. And here we have a little plastic cover which goes over the paints, and it tells you exactly what they are. It's got their name there. Yes, it's got the star rating on there, as well as the name and the number of the paint itself. So you can replace them easily by saying, oh, I need some more of this 651, for example, which is presumably lemon yellow. It's quite hard to read. Oh. I went to the opticians yesterday to order some new sunglasses, and that was an experience in Cairo, I have to say. Anyway, we'll see what happens when they arrive. So then we open up and we see we've got a little brush here, and we've got 4 spaces for mixing. If you're painting outdoors, on the go, or wherever, and you don't want to have to carry a palette around with you. The brush is tiny, but I think it's probably going to be big enough if what you're going to do is something on the small side. And I've got some paper here. This is a cheap Egyptian watercolor paper pad, yes, and I'm going to give it a go. I've just been practicing with this morning. It's not dry yet, so I'm going to sit it like that so that doesn't touch what's underneath. And let's have a try. Oops, it is a little bit fiddly, the brush, I have to say, but you don't necessarily have to use this brush with these paints, do you? You can do if you're not going to carry anything else. But so let's see what we've got here. Let's wet the brush and let's swatch these out. See how powerful they are. It's lemon yellow. And this is cadmium yellow, light. And this is vermilion hue, right, vermilion hue. And that's a nice orange, isn't it? A couple of people had seen me talking about this little set and said they'd got it and that they loved the colours. And I can see why, because they're nice and strong. This, I'm pretty much sure, is alizarin crimson. So those are our yellows and reds, and I'm just going to add to that by putting a little bit more paint and washing it out down the page. And you see what we get. You find yourself holding the paintbrush a little bit differently when it's so tiny. And it could make your hands hurt a bit. I think I can feel my 4th finger going a bit numb. But yeah, like I said, you wouldn't really necessarily want to use this brush. And that pulls out to a nice pale pink. That's what I was hoping for. a nice kind of rosy floral pink. Okay, so that's those 4 colours, looking good. And now let's try these ones. Here we have, I'm pretty sure that's phthalo blue, or something similar. Let me see what it says on the back here. Prussian blue, and then the next one is going to be ultramarine. Prussian blue and phthalo blue are similar. It's really more or less a case of how you choose to describe it. Some people like this colour for skies. I think there's something to be said for that. Some people prefer ultramarine. This is a very greenish kind of colour. It's a cool blue, really, and the best blue to use to make greens. And ultramarine, if you want to try and mix your own purple, that's the one to go for. And this is leaf green. That might be better. I've just closed the windows and shut out the traffic noise. You get used to it after a while, don't you, if you live in an area where there's lots of traffic? But I think it does disturb your concentration to hear cars going by all the time. We've had a lot of helicopters going over this last couple of days because President Trump is here, not here in Cairo, but he's at Sharm el-Sheikh, which is also in Egypt, and we hear a lot of military helicopters going over all the time here, but usually in the evening. But the last couple of days, they've been going through the night and during the day as well. So this is Viridian. Can't fault these colours for their subtlety. And so we've got now 2 more to go, and those will be yellow ochre and burnt sienna. So we'll just turn our page over. I'm sure I'm making a terrible... Oh, no, that's actually quite dry, that's all right. Okay, so yellow ochre. So I went to this Egyptian art shop the other day called Bakir, which we found in the mall, in Point 90 Mall, just around the corner from here. And also just around the corner, but in a different direction, there is a bigger branch, which we just noticed last night. I hadn't realised it was there because, unlike many of the shops here in Cairo, its shop sign is in Arabic. Most of the shops here have got their signs up in English nowadays, although that is relatively new. In New Cairo, it's definitely the case. But this branch of Bakir only has it in Arabic. So I hadn't noticed it before, but having been to one, when I saw another, we recognised that it was the same shop. And it looks bigger. The one that we went to was like a little mini Aladdin's cave in the mall, but this one is on the main street here, 90th Street. And so we'll check that one out and see what they have. So there we are. That's the 10 colours, and we can try mixing a few of them. Let's see what kind of a green we get if we mix the lemon yellow, and I'll put that there. And beside it, if it's lemon yellow, it's a cool blue. So let's put it with a bit of Prussian blue and see what we get. Okay, so that mixes to a nice green, a nice soft green. And let's see what the difference is if we do lemon yellow and ultramarine. And I think that's going to give us a slightly different kind of, oops, that's quite a lot. That will give us a very dark blue kind of colour. So let's see. Yeah, it's a much less green, if you see what I mean. So just to show that again, I'm going to put that there and mix it with a bit of that and put that out. Okay, so that's your Prussian blue with lemon yellow. And this is lemon yellow with ultramarine. You need more yellow for a start. The colours are quite strong, has to be said. Yeah, so it's different, you see. Still green, but different. It's drying very quickly on this paper. Paper must be very absorbent. Yeah, you see there's hardly any run there. I put a lot of paint there, so that's spreading out a bit more. So the thing to do when you get a new set like this is to practice mixing your colours. So I'm going to mix cadmium yellow with this vermilion and just practice seeing what you get when you mix the colours together. That's a lovely bright orange. Okay, and then this one here, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the alizarin crimson with the warm yellow. Let's see what kind of an orange that gives us. So immediately we've got our autumn colours coming up here, and we can take our burnt sienna and we can add that to that, for example. So that's a much stronger orangey brown than the burnt sienna all on its own. And then we could take burnt sienna and mix it with a green, for example, and that might give us a nice soft brown for things like brown leaves and acorns and stuff like that. So that's burnt sienna dulled down with a bit of green or blue. So there we are. It's a little bit of, oh, my hand's gone quite numb using that brush. So that's a downside of a tiny brush. When you're getting older, you won't want to use that. You'll want to use a proper good-sized brush. And this one that I got from Bakir is turning out to be pretty good. And that's a size 14, and that's a little bit more cozy for the hand. And here's our yellow ochre. So here we have a nice warm palette for painting autumn trees. Okay, so now we've tried out our new set of paints. I'm going to try them out further by having a go at a very simple abstract doodly type landscape, which I think is a wonderful introduction to landscapes if you've been doing painting along with me for the last few weeks, perhaps, and trying out all sorts of different techniques and so on and so forth, leading up to the ability to paint a landscape. But it's going to be a little bit doodly. In other words, no drawing needed. Talking about no drawing, I do have a handful of pens here, which I'm going to use, some of, if not all, and I thought I would introduce them to you. I'll put in the description below all their links and so on and so forth. This is the Pigma Micron, which is a black one, and I think it comes in colours too. We have here the Winsor & Newton fine liner. These are all good. This is the Tombow brush pen. This is a Signo Uniball Signo Gold liner, fine liner. This is the same in white. You can get sets, I think, of gold, silver and white. This is a Stettler pigment liner, similar to the Micron. And this is another Tombow. They come in hard and soft. And when you press on them, they go from a fine line to a thicker line. So they're really great. So they all come in different sizes, except for the Tombow ones. But mostly this one is just called Broad, and that's what I use. I presume there must be a fine one somewhere around. But the Stettler and the Micron and the Winsor & Newton all come in different thicknesses of nibs. So you usually get a little set of them. You probably realise that I am talking to beginners here. A lot of you will already know all this stuff, but it never hurts to go over it again, does it? I'm going to see if I can get this out, but it appears it might take a major operation to remove it, so I'll just bend it back out of the way. a little bit. Now, this landscape is going to be some autumn trees and a little bit of a hill. And we're going to start off by painting in the trees. I'm not going to bother with the sky. I'll just leave the sky plain paper. Oh yes, the brush I'm using here is a size 14 round synthetic. This one happens to be bought in Egypt, but I think it's probably Chinese. I think, in fact, certainly it's Chinese. I've got the thing here, made in China, yes. So it's probably very similar to all the other brushes that are on the market in America, Australia, England, everywhere. It certainly seems to me to be absolutely the same as, for example, this brush here, which was one of mine that we had with Craft-A-Mo, and this one here, which actually is made in Japan. So if anything is going to be a little bit different, it'll be the Drawell brushes, which are made by hand. I know that in Japan, because I've been buying those for years and years. But anyway, so this is a typical brush, just an ordinary round brush. I've got my Staedtler Carrot Aquarelle pencil there in case I want to use it. So we did some color mixing just now to find out what we wanted to do. And I'm just going to pick up some orange from here. The small little pans are a trifle irritating for me, but I'll get over it. So we've got some yellow and some orange in our little palette here. I'm going to start, we're going to kind of just loosely brush in. Try to think about your brush dancing on the paper. It doesn't matter, we don't need a great deal of water control. We don't need anything really much. Just think blobby trees, let it do whatever it wants to do. This is the cadmium yellow I'm adding to that. You could make it all run out to the side of the paper there. Leave a few holes perhaps for branches and for the birds to fly through, but don't worry too much. And then we'll just carry on going over. If we want to make it a bit more orangey in the middle, we change the color. Change the size of the blob. And we'll do these blobs different levels, kind of, going down, sort of an uneven line. And this one up here will go up here. So initially, don't worry too much about the color. There's quite a bit of red there, but we're going to add some orange into that. Just dancing around, whatever takes your fancy. And I'm using De La Rowney paper here. This is cellulose paper. It's not cotton, but the painting I did on it the other day came out okay, so we're going to assume the same will happen today, with any luck. So where we have our trees, I'm just going to dab a little bit, because the paper's bent a little bit, because this isn't a block. Remember when we use the Meaden paper, it's all blocks and it's all glued down around the outside edge. If you feel you've gone a little dark, just pick up a tissue or a piece of paper towel or something and just lift out some of the colour in some places. And then you can kind of let that just dry a bit. And then the next thing I'm going to do is pick up some bright yellow. This is lemon yellow. And I'm going to imagine a hill, just going across the page like that. And then I'm just going to drag that colour down and let it kind of fade away. And what I want next is a little bit of brown. This is burnt sienna. And I'm going to put very fine chunks in. We did this the other day in a video, and I'm doing it again. Just drop the paint in and just kind of indicate some of your branches. You don't need to do much of this because we're going to actually do the branches in a different way. So just do whatever you feel like. And here's another one. I know some of you live in very hot and dry climates, and in places like that, you have to work a little bit faster with watercolour than you do if you live in Brittany, where everything is mouldy because it's so damp there. But I'm noticing here in Cairo, my paints are drying really quickly, and so is my throat, come to that. It's quite hard to keep from getting a sore throat. Eventually your voice starts to dry out, you know. So we're just putting in our trunks. And if you want another video doing this, I did a very simple one a little while ago to introduce you to the whole idea of doing blobby trees. Okay, so we'll just leave that like that. Then I'll take some orange and a bit of brown mixed together, and I'm just going to hope and pray that the paint isn't dried on me. So it's okay. So we've just come across here to indicate the fact that the trees are losing their branches. Okay, go back to the yellow and spread it out a little bit. It's nice to have that yellow glow underneath, if you know what I mean. And then we probably want some green. Now you can either use the sap green that's in this set or the Viridian green. Hope you can see that. Yeah. Or both. And you could mix some of the warmer yellow, I think, with that. And then we'll just add that in. You notice I don't go straight across with my brush. I tend to, you could say dab, I suppose, a little bit. So we want a bit more green. Again, tone it down with some yellow. And if you want to tone it down even more, you're going to add perhaps yellow ochre, which will give you a slightly off green. Or you can go for blue. Let's try some ultramarine blue. You should be able to hear that helicopter, even though the windows are closed. I mentioned the helicopters earlier, didn't I? So if you've got plenty of water on there, the colour should move around a little bit and you'll get something pleasant. And so we'll just make that into a nice green for the foreground there. Something along those lines. Might add a little bit more orange up here. Just bring that down a bit further. Yours won't look like mine, which is probably a good thing. No, I mean, everyone's version of this would be different. There's millions of ways of doing this. Add a little bit more blue there. Brush it in a bit. Okay, so now the thing is, what we have to do now, apart from just taking out that excess water there, the best thing to do right now then is to let it dry, and while it's drying it's going to move around and it's going to give you some nice interesting blends. It's very nearly dry in the trees, but I'm going to stop at that point and come back once it's properly dry. Okay, now this is perfectly dry. I am fed and we can carry on now and complete this little painting. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some leaves to the trees. And for that, I have two suggestions as to what we could do. You can either use a brush, which I think is probably the more, let's say, authentic from point of view of watercolor painting approach, or you could use, for example, the watercolor pencils like these ones, or in fact you could do a little bit of each. So I'll keep that handy in case I feel the urge to break into pencil. And otherwise I'm going to remove my big brush here because I don't need that anymore, I don't think. And I will, find tomato seeds on my top. Move this one as well, that's too small. Can't hold it properly. It's amazing, actually. The thickness of this brush is not any less than this. And there's actually a few more hairs on that one than there are on my black one here. But because it's so short, somehow the balance of it is not quite right. What you could do is get one of those pencil extenders, which I've got a couple of at home. I don't think I've got one here, but you can screw something on the end and then you get a better balance. Somehow having a little bit of weight at the end of the shaft of the brush seems to help. I don't know whether that's my imagination or not, but anyway, so leaves, it's autumn and we need some autumn coloured leaves. So we've really got a very good vermilion colour here, and I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna to it. The burnt sienna here in this set is quite soft. It's quite a nice orangey brown. Always a good idea to test the colours out when you're doing something like this. This was my practice one from this morning. And here we had some of our, what we did earlier. So let's test this. I think that's a pretty good starting point for our brown autumn leaves. That'll probably be okay. And what I'm going to do, having prepared that, I shall take my brown Winsor & Newton fine liner, which really is quite fine. This is a 0.3. And I shall look at my cheat sheet, which I did this morning. What I'm going to do is, first of all, go over the outside edges of some of these painted lines to kind of reinforce the branchiness of it, make it a little bit more solid, perhaps, and put a few up here where we've got some holes and so on. And then I'm going to go a bit doodly, and from about here I shall take some lines and just go sort of meander, go wiggly up the page. And this is to give me a support for my leaves, just to give me an idea. So that's just the first tree. So then we pick up some brown, and I'm going to paint in large leaf shapes. Now, this is why this is, in my book, a doodly type of painting, because I'm not trying at all to do anything realistic. This is just going to give you the idea of leaves, okay? And the reason for this is because trees are difficult to paint. There must be 9 million videos on YouTube showing you how to paint trees. I have never been terribly impressed with my own attempts at painting trees. I think nature basically does it much better than I can. And even if you're really clever and you can paint very realistic trees, I still prefer either the real thing or something abstract, which looks good. So I've just changed my colour, as I say, always. You're probably bored if you've listened to me much, probably bored with hearing me say, as soon as your paint runs out on your brush and you need to pick up some more, change the colour a little bit. That will give you a more lively result. So you can add a little bit of green to your brown or orange, and that will turn it slightly browner. So you get a variety. And we're just doing very simple leaf shapes, following the stems which I drew in first of all. Okay, and we're not going to put too many. We don't need too many, just kind of indication of where the leaves might be. Okay, and then we'll go to the next one, And we'll change the colour there. We'll go to a more yellow base on this one. So we'll pick up some of both of those yellows, I think, just to keep it variety, and a tiny bit of orange. So it's quite a light, but this one is going to be different. We'll just do some little lines. This reminds me of Ponciana tree. They don't have yellow leaves in the winter, I don't think, but you know, I think we have them here, and noticed some trees, although they're probably actually acacias. Maybe a Ponciana is a kind of acacia. I don't know. There's bound to be somebody out there who knows. So we'll just do this. This is quite nice and subtle, and a bit quicker than the bigger leaves. And just put the stems in using the point of the brush. Okay. And we could put a branch in here through this hole. Wanted to give it a bit more depth. Okay, now number 3. Let's go back to our pen, and we can put in some branches here going through this hole. And up here perhaps, maybe here. Oh, I forgot to do that. I'll do this bit. Just makes it look a bit more trunky down here. And then we'll go back to the slightly darker colour. Just heard a tremendous explosion here. So near and so strong that it actually rattled the windows and shook the blinds. Must have been not far. And then we heard an ambulance going by, so we'll find out what that's about in the newspapers tomorrow, I suppose. So we'll take our time. Oh, that was a hair on the paper which is causing all my shapes to go wrong. Goes another helicopter. Put a couple down here. And maybe I'll just draw in some stems on these ones. Maybe some, what do you call them, veins down the middle. The paint dries so quickly here, you wouldn't be able to do this in some parts of the world so quickly. But you can here, so that's okay. Now the next one, what should we do with the next one? Well, we could do the, ring the changes. Ring the changes, is that what I mean? Try a slightly different technique. This is my Carrot Aquarelle watercolor pencil that I bought in the Lakia shop here the other day, as I probably mentioned once or twice. I'll put in some branches. I'm not making the branches really thick or anything like that. And then let's just try doing some sort of textured leaves. We might do some in orange as well. Oh, you could go over the brown. And another thing you could do is you could wet the pencil. I found that out yesterday. Get some nice dark accents. But to keep it fairly quick, I mean, you can play around as much as you like. We'll try and get this done reasonably fast. But it's quite good to have something a little bit darker in contrast to the others, just makes it a little bit more interesting. So we could do that, and then we could come in as well with some orange ones too. Mix and match. I've been looking at some of the amazing versions of some of the paintings that I've been doing recently that some of you have done, and I have to say you're very clever. It's amazing. It gives you an idea and you can creatively run with it. It's amazing. Beautiful stuff. Just go into those wet ones there a little bit. Okay, I think that one's quite complicated enough. And then I think I'll go back to yellow with a little bit, just a little bit. And then where's my brown gone? Let's use the brown pencil. Put that up there. I'm going to put some birds in later on in a minute. If anyone's contemplating buying this paper, it is good, it's fine, Daler-Rowney, it's on Amazon, and I'll put a link below. And there is a link already on the last video we did. Just as a change, sometimes a change is as good as a rest, as we say. Okay, so there we are, that's all of the trees done. And then I think what I'm going to do next is just add some falling leaves coming down. And maybe a few lying on the ground or under the trees. Don't be too worried about details, in the sense of accurate shapes or perspective. We're completely ignoring perspective. I would tend to think, well, when you've got a tree that's really yellow, you probably should make the falling leaves yellow too. Make them all different sizes. And probably a good idea to make them go different directions. And to sort of match up with some brown ones on this one. Okay, and then a few orange ones on here. A few more dots of leaves underneath. I'm not finished yet. There we are, so there's that. And then what did we do next? What I did next last time was I put a nice line across. Well, actually, first of all, I took a pen, but I think I'm going to do it with pencil this time. This is the brown one, and I'm just going to draw in some dividing lines. And this is to give us a sort of sense of perspective. So you get the idea of the hill going away, yeah? Like that. And then, well, let's find my brown one here, and then we're just going to do a nice wavy line, and just because it's kind of fun, it doesn't have any particular meaning, we just put some little dots going along here. There are hundreds of different ways that you can embellish your painting. But this is one way of kind of giving it a sense of distance. Definitely a sense of distance. And we'll put, we've done a lot where we've had, what do you call it? Flowers and things making their way across the paper. But these are going to be leafy, because the leaves are so beautiful in the autumn. So just all sorts of different shapes, different autumnal kinds of colours, greens and yellows and oranges. And we'll just keep the line uneven. On my trial one, I did some white. I put some white on. But I'm not quite sure that I want to do that this time. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put another line here. And then I'm going to draw in some little birds. I'll make them a bit bigger than I did on my trial one. So start with the beak, do a little round head, big tummy, tail, eye, and nice long legs and a wing. And lo and behold, we have a nice little bird. And put another one here. And for this one, you can just go straight over and straight round. Little beak, little eye. Put his tail down, for example. And he's got shorter legs. And he's got a wing as well. Okay, and then we might do another one over here. Do start with the back, do a head and a beak. And a little tail, like that, and his eye. And then maybe another one here. If you have a go at doing these and practice them, and you'll find sooner or later, quite soon actually, they'll come quite easy. Okay, and then I'm going to go over the line that they're standing on. This is, you know, kind of, what would you call it? A branch or something like that. Just make it a bit stronger. And then we'll paint the little things. And if we use our colour reasonably thickly, it will go over what's underneath. So we can start off with one in blue. I'll put a blue bird here. And then we can go to, how about yellow ochre? With a bit of brown in it, perhaps. And, oh, let's have a nice green one, shall we? And then, how about a red one? Every painting needs a little dash of red in it. Remember being told that years ago. Okay, so we'll let them dry. And I'm going to put some nice bright green. Well, no, not bright green, actually, come to think of it. It shouldn't be green. I think we'll do a mixture along here of leaves. In green and red and brown. Oops. And I want to carry that on all the way along. Okay, so there we have a row of leaves, and I will go around them in pen in a minute. I'm just waiting for these to dry. And I'm going to put a nice line of white, I think. Oops, it's dried out. This is kind of soft and subtle. There are lots of different ways, as I keep saying, of doing your doodles. You can do them much heavier than that, but I do want to just fill that gap a little bit. So we'll put some white dots in here. And we'll put some white on some of these leaves just to break them up a little bit. And then I'm going to go to my gold as my last final touches. So my bird, oh, actually, first of all, I need to go over it with brown. Or black. 0.8. What have I got? What will probably do? He needs a wing, and his eye needs to be reinforced, and his legs. So then I'll go with the gold, and I want to give him, excited about giving him a nice gold wing and a gold tail. On top of the red, looks really good. And this one's already got something round him, so we'll give him a nice gold wing too. And I really like that effect. You can have a little gold cap on his head as well. This one here, you're not going to miss out, don't worry, everyone's going to get their gold. And this one should be good because it's blue. Yes, that shows up really nicely. And we'll pop in your eye. There we go, they're really sweet, I really like those. And coming down to meet them soon, there'll be some birds which are in the sky. And we could go around some of these nice falling leaves, just to give a bit more definite shape, like that. And finally, these white leaf shapes, we will fill in with our gold. So we're coming to the end now, so I hope you enjoyed that and have a go. It's very soothing and relaxing and will do your mind good. You know, they've shown recently that people who create things and do things with their hands are likely to hold on to their brain power much longer than people who don't. And I fully believe in that. I think it's very true. I've always felt compelled definitely by my inner voice to make things. Never have been able to resist the desire to make things. I know some people don't feel like that. There's nothing wrong with it if you don't. I suppose there's nothing wrong with not feeling like you want to create, but I think it's basic human nature to make things. And there's been some research done recently by the Mayo Clinic over the last few years, which has shown that if you spend your whole life creating, you're going to be 50% less likely to develop Alzheimer's or dementia of some kind when you, as you age. So that's a very interesting and reassuring thought to bear in mind, isn't it? So everyone needs to get out their paintbrushes or their knitting needles. Knitting is particularly good. Yes, I was listening to a video by a lady called Jane who has something called Snapdragon Studio, I think it is, and she was talking about this. That's what's made me think about it. So there we are. There's our little painting, all done. And I'll hold it up so you can see it better. And I hope you have a go, make it yours, do your own version and have a lot of fun. And take care of yourselves. What's the day today? It's the beginning of the week. Have a good week. And I will see you again on Thursday. And meanwhile, do lots of painting, everyone. See you soon. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.